What if Leia traveled back in time to warn Padme in Revenge of the Sith? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Leia looks around as she exits a dark alley to see a massive city skyline before her. It is one she has seen many times before during her father's diplomatic visits to the capital. But this time, Coruscant looks different. For one, many of the buildings she was familiar with haven't been built yet. For the other, it looks like it just came out of a massive battle. If her guess was right, then it must have been as she remembers looking into the portal in the world between worlds. This was right after the Battle of Coruscant, when the CIS invasion was halted, right before her father fell to the dark side. A part of her wants to confront him directly. She feels for the lightsaber at her side, but forces herself to remain calm. Anakin was one of the greatest Jedi of his time. The chances of her winning in a duel against him are slim. No, she would need to think of a different plan. As she walks through the streets to consider her options, she sees a large crowd gathering in the streets. She makes her way to the center, wondering what is going on. To her surprise, she sees a senator handing out supplies to the people of Coruscant. Leia doesn't recognize her at first, but there is something familiar about her. When she approaches, the pieces click together. She recognizes the designs of her robes, the uniforms of the guards accompanying her, and the sigil in those boxes. Naboo, Senator Amidala, her mother. Leia's breath catches in her throat as she takes a step forward, but then stops midway. Instead, she continues to watch her work, laying eyes on her mother for the first time. They have the same hair, the same eyes, and more. These are the things she forces herself to focus on as she resists the urge to approach. It is only when the crowds begin to disperse that Leia takes a step closer, approaching her stand. However, before she reaches her, the guards bar her path.
I'm so sorry, but we're out of supplies to give.
No, that's not what I'm here for. I need to talk to you, Senator. It's about your husband.
Padme's eyes widen, and she stares at Leia in surprise. However, the princess crosses her arms expectantly. The senator tells her to keep her voice down, and tells the guards to bring her to her quarters. Once they are alone in her apartment, Leia explains everything. She says she came from the future, one where Palpatine has declared a galactic empire and abolished the Republic. He did this by manipulating everyone to gain power, including Anakin. At first, Padme can't believe her, but Leia grabs her arm and insists on it. Padme's heart pounds at the certainty in Leia's voice. There's something disturbingly familiar about her. Something in her presence, her fire, her conviction. The way she speaks of the galaxy feels too personal to be a lie.
I know Anakin. He would never turn against the Republic.
He does. Not just against the Republic. Against you. Against everyone. He becomes a monster. He will kill all the Jedi, burn entire cities, destroy whole planets. He will be the reason the galaxy falls into darkness.
No. That's not possible.
Do you think I would have come here, traveled through time, if I wasn't sure? If I didn't have a damn good reason? He needs to die to stop this future, and you're the only one he trusts enough to get close.
Padme flinches at the certainty of those words, at the venom in Leia's voice. To her, Anakin is just Darth Vader, one of the galaxy's greatest monsters. He was never a father to her or Luke.
If what you say is true, then we have to help Anakin, not kill him. I won't give up on him.
Help him? There's no saving him. The only thing you can do is stop him before he kills millions. Billions. If you love him, you won't let that happen.
I do love him. That's exactly why I won't give up on him. You said Palpatine is behind all this. Then he is the one we need to stop. If we expose him, then Anakin won't fall.
You think you can just expose him? The Jedi are blind to him. The Senate is under his thumb. What proof do you even have?
Then we find proof. If we take him down before he gains total control, Anakin will have no reason to turn. You said it yourself. Palpatine is manipulating him. If we cut that influence off at the source, we can save him.
Leia looks away, lips pressed into a thin line. She wants to argue, to scream that she's wrong, that Anakin can't be saved. But then she sees it. The sheer, unshakable belief in Padme's eyes. A belief she has never known. Slowly, reluctantly, Leia exhales.
Fine. We try it your way. But if we fail, don't expect me to hesitate when the time comes.
The two of them sit down and consider their options. Padme lists down everything Palpatine does, working with corrupt officials, building superweapons, building new galactic military. Corruption is hardly anything new, but it is difficult to prove and even more difficult to get them punished. As for military equipment, it would be easy for him to say it is for the clones. However, building the Death Star must require plenty of resources, something that would need to be gathered long before he even became Emperor. If they can find it, then it is their best chance to try and stop him. To this end, Padme manages to get support from Bail Organa and Mon Mothma. Although both are understandably confused about everything Leia is saying, they do have their suspicions about Palpatine and whether or not he will respect democracy. They decide the best place to start is in the Senate databanks, where they can try accessing some goings-on in the Republic. While Palpatine wouldn't be stupid enough to broadcast his transactions openly, there must be some sort of paper trail. Padme, Bail Organa, and Mon Mothma huddle around a console as Leia scrolls through endless streams of financial records. It was easy enough to get inside. All they needed to say was it was for official Senate business, and the guards were happy to let them through. Padme leans forward, her brows furrowed as she examines some of the records.
Look at these numbers. The war budget has been inflating beyond standard expenditures, even accounting for the clone army's needs. But these shipments, they're routed through shell companies. Hundreds of them, all leading to the Outer Rim.
I've heard of some of these planets. Palpatine's good at covering his tracks. Even if we find irregularities, it won't be enough to prove treason. We need something undeniable. Something that exposes him as a Sith.
You said the Empire, your Empire, built a superweapon. A planet killer. If it's already in development, that level of military construction would require resources beyond anything the Republic has ever seen. If we can find evidence of it, we have leverage.
It exists. It's called the Death Star. I know it's being built now. It has to be. The plans came from Geonosis, but I don't know where the actual station is yet. The materials and funding for something that massive must be hidden somewhere in these records. That must be for the station.
Then we focus on that.
She enters another query, her fingers flying across the controls. The system resists, redirecting her through multiple security layers, but her clearance as a senator gives her access to most wartime logistics. More figures flash across the screen. Starship components, Durasteel imports, reactor cores, all accounted for, yet disturbingly vague in their final destinations.
This doesn't make sense. Supplies meant for the war effort, but there's no trace of them ever reaching the front lines.
So, perhaps this talk of superweapons isn't just a tall tale.
Here. These materials. These are what they used for the Death Star. Reactor shielding, hypermatter containment cores. None of this is for regular warships.
Unfortunately, that goes unanswered, as even with Padme's clearance, they cannot access this information. Leia tries to override the security system, but as some information begins to filter through, they hear footsteps behind her. A security team is approaching. Their boots echo down the hall, growing louder. Leia grits her teeth, scanning the data one last time. She memorizes what she can before abruptly shutting down the console. She barely has time to turn when the doors slide open. Soon enough, Commander Fox appears with a squad of clones. The commander demands an explanation, and Padme says they are simply receiving the security budget, something within their rights as senators. The clone glances over at the three, nodding his head, but then his gaze falls upon Leia, and he frowns at her. Thankfully, Bail acts quickly and explains that she is Padme's new aide. Fox considers all this for a moment, but then nods. He really can't do anything to them without evidence. He dismisses them and says they must secure the facility and all the data. Seeing that they have no choice, the three senators bow their heads and leave, letting the clones secure the facility. However, as they depart, Bail promises to continue to research this to figure out what they can. The Chancellor's office is dimly lit, the Coruscant skyline stretching endlessly beyond the towering windows. A storm brews in the distance, casting faint shadows over the ornate chamber. Anakin stands before Palpatine, surprised that he would call him there so late.
There has been a concerning development, my boy. It seemed like Padme and her cohorts have been conducting very peculiar investigations, one that involves sensitive wartime budgets. While this in itself is not entirely surprising, what is troubling is the company she keeps.
Who? Palpatine's eyes narrow slightly.
A woman. A strange figure. Unregistered in her official staff. She was seen accessing Senate databanks alongside Padme. I understand Padme has the right to access such information, but it is strange that she would have someone like this woman accompanying her. This is suspicious to me, Anakin.
No, Padme would never conspire against the Republic.
Of course not, but that does not mean she is safe from manipulation. Think, my dear boy, there are those who would exploit her kindness. They whisper in her ear, filling her mind with doubt, especially if she is one attuned with the Force.
The Force? How can you be certain?
To tell you the truth, I am not. But there is something about her that my intuition does not like. I believe she reminds me too much of Ventress.
Anakin stiffens. His mind flashes back to the Senate corridor, where he had sensed something strange, powerful, emanating from that girl walking out of the Senate halls. But now he pictures Ventress, Dooku's one-time assassin. She was probably one of Anakin's most challenging foes, and came dangerously close to killing him several times. To have someone of her caliber in the Senate is troubling, to say the least.
She's strong in the Force. Indeed. And yet, she is not affiliated with the Jedi. That alone is suspicious, is it not? A Force sensitive lurking in the shadows of the Senate. I cannot help but wonder, is she influencing Padme somehow? Perhaps a thief, or a spy, or an assassin. The possibilities are troubling. You must watch this woman. Keep her close. Learn the truth before it is too late.
Anakin says nothing, his thoughts twisting. Palpatine studies him for a moment longer, then smiles ever so slightly. Soon enough, though, they start to get some answers, as Bail Organa calls Leia into his room one day to report that he's discovered something. A planet in the sector that can potentially be the facility for these weapons. Scarif. He explains that it has some shipyards and a small industrial base, something that can let it handle shipbuilding, but small and out of the way enough to avoid the prying eyes of the Republic. So far it is undeveloped, but much of its territories are controlled by several shell companies. A memory pokes in the back of Leia's mind. Scarif, the same place her fleet did battle against the Empire so many years ago. The same place they had found the Death Star plans. It makes perfect sense. She had not expected that facility to be operated already, but that information is all that she needs. They must go there. She thanks Senator Organa, resisting the urge to embrace her future father. A part of her wants to tell him about what he will encounter in the future, about the hardships he will face and the destruction of Alderaan. But she cannot bring herself to speak on it now. What she does trust herself to say is talking about Anakin.
Senator, if I can give you some advice, keep an eye on Skywalker. I don't feel like he has Padme's best interests at heart.
General Skywalker. I assure you his intentions are strictly honorable. He certainly is brash and reckless, but he has a good heart and has dedicated himself to the Republic. He has my trust.
Funny how that works out then.
She purses her lips and begins walking out, preparing to return to her quarters and begin planning their next move. By now, the Senate building is nearly empty, allowing Leia to move more freely and clear her head. Her mind racing as she processes the information about Scarif. This is the breakthrough they need. She rounds a corner and finds Anakin Skywalker standing in the hallway, arms crossed over his chest.
General Skywalker?
Who are you?
Padme's aide. You've seen me before.
No, you're not. I can feel it. You're strong in the Force, and yet you hide yourself. Why?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't lie to me. And then, without warning, he strikes. His lightsaber ignites in a burst of blue, cutting toward her. Leia barely has time to react. She twists back, reaching for the weapon hidden beneath her robes. A small silver hilt she never thought she'd need to use. A green blade snaps to life. Anakin's eyes widen, giving Leia a chance to push his strike aside and counterstrike. However, Anakin doesn't break and parries it, stopping the blade just a few inches from him, sending an explosion of light around them. Sparks fly as they dance across the hallway, Leia moving with quick, calculated footwork, parrying Anakin's brutal strikes. She leaps onto a stairway and lunges at him, but Anakin shoves her aside and comes down on her hard. He is relentless, powerful, a storm barely restrained, but she is faster, more controlled. Where his movements are fueled by sheer force, Leia disciplines herself, ducking under an overhead strike and then sidestepping his lunge. She whirls back and slashes her lightsaber against his side. It is a shallow gash, but she can't enjoy it for long as Anakin shoves her back with the force, sending her slamming against the wall.
You're trained.
And you're paranoid.
I won't let you hurt Padme.
Don't worry, it's not her I want to hurt.
Her anger flashes, and for a moment she forgets that she promised not to hurt Anakin. Instead, she springs forward with a snarl, slamming her lightsaber into him. She then slides low and slashes at his legs. For a moment, she lets her anger take over and rains down attacks on him, and it is surprisingly effective, as Anakin can't seem to keep up. He is pushed on the defensive, and Leia seizes her chance, striking at his head. But this is just what Anakin wants. He ducks underneath and slams his saber down with enough strength to crack the marble floor, throwing Leia back. He advances, swinging his lightsaber in a wide, brutal arc. Though Leia tries to defend, the sheer power throws her arm back and she realizes she is outmatched. As her anger fades, turning to shock as she realizes what she's doing, she decides that she cannot continue and makes for the exit. Anakin tries to stop her, moving to block her path, but Leia notices a crumbling pillar that was damaged from their fight. She uses the Force to knock it over, sending it hurtling towards Anakin. The Jedi manages to catch it and halt it from falling, but Leia uses that chance to run by. As she makes her escape, Leia reaches for her comlink and contacts Bail Organa.
I just heard some fighting. What happened?
Skywalker happened. We need to talk, and after that, we need to take action.
The smuggler vessel hums with quiet anticipation as it drops out of hyperspace near Scarif. Padme, Bail Organa, and Leia stand near the viewport, gazing down at the planet below. True to Leia's instruction, Bail chartered a ship, a fast one, and one which is likely not going to be tracked by the Republic forces. The three look over the viewport, and their eyes widen at what they see. Even from orbit, the scale of the construction is staggering. Metallic frameworks stretch across the once pristine beaches. Docking stations bustle with ships ferrying metals, and massive scaffolding rises like skeletal towers above the shimmering waters. The most ambitious of these projects, though, seems to be some sort of space station, a massive ring that circles the construction site. The three hop to different computers and take as many pictures and videos as possible, things that can be presented to the Senate.
This is it. We have our proof.
Even if we can't confirm the Death Star, this level of military expansion, hidden from the Senate, will be enough to force an inquiry.
We need to leave now. If we've seen this, then someone else might have seen us.
As if on cue, alarms blare through the ship. Leia's stomach twists as a fighter emerges from hyperspace behind them. She instantly recognizes the design and color pattern. Anakin. The ship circles around them like a sleek predator. Before anyone can react, the ship shudders violently. Explosions ripple across the hull as laser fire cripples the engines. The smuggler pilot curses, hands flying over the controls.
Engines are down. Shields failing.
A mechanical clang echoes through the ship, the sound of a docking clamp latching onto the hull. Leia pulls her lightsaber from her belt. The time for secrecy is over. The smuggler crew, a ragtag mix of humans and aliens, exchange glances before one of them, a grizzled Weequay with a cybernetic eye, grunts and pulls out his blaster. But then, to her surprise, the smugglers all draw their blasters and aim them toward the airlock. The airlock hisses. The door slams open. Anakin Skywalker steps onto the ship. His lightsaber ignites with a snap hiss, casting an eerie blue glow in the dim corridor. His gaze sweeps across the armed crew before settling on Padme. His expression softens.
Padme, get behind me.
She takes a hesitant step forward, but she shakes her head.
Anakin, please. You don't have to do this. We only came to—
Don't waste your breath. He's already turned.
But before either of them can make a move, click, 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 blasters charge up. Anakin looks around, realizing the smugglers have their weapons trained directly on him. The captain removes his helmet, revealing the face of Captain Antilles.
General Skywalker, you're under arrest.
Padme looks up at Bail in surprise, but he clenches his jaw and nods.
Yes, arrest him, and see to it that he does not trouble us until this inquiry's over. Unfortunately, I had to take precautions as Leia warned us Anakin might interfere. To my regret, she was correct. Arrest me? We don't want to hurt you, but we will if necessary. You don't understand. You're being lied to. You know me, Senator. You know I would never betray the Republic. I know you believe that, Anakin. But Leia has given me proof of what the future holds. She told me what happens to Alderaan if we fail. If I let this go,
If I take the chance that you are on our side, I gamble with my world's existence, and I will not do that.
Bail, please. This isn't the way.
We tried it your way. Now we do it this way. You did this. You've poisoned them against me. But I see you now. You're a Sith.
Anakin.
Their sabers ignite in unison, blue and green clashing in a violent spray of sparks as the ship's dim corridor erupts into chaos. Blaster fire fills the air as Antilles' crew try to assist, but Anakin thrusts a hand out, sending them crashing against the bulkheads with a powerful force wave. Weapons clatter to the floor, bodies slump unconscious. Leia snarls and rushes forward, her lightsaber cutting through the bulkhead as she sends sparks Anakin's way. The Jedi growls and tries to push them aside and blocks her strikes. His foot lashes out and he kicks her side before swinging at her neck, but Leia dodges it. She is fast, slashing back at him. Her eyes burn as she swings her lightsaber at him, driven by everything she knows about the man before her. Anakin barely holds her back, deflecting her blow with mechanical precision before throwing another force push that sends her leaping back. You're strong, but you're also angry. Leia doesn't deny it. She is angry. She hates him for what he will become, for what he allows to happen. She hates him for Alderaan. Her strikes grow more erratic, fueled by raw emotion. Lightning-fast slashes force Anakin back, and for the first time she sees something flicker in his expression. Surprise. But Leia doesn't give him a chance to recover and continues to bring her lightsaber down. One strike manages to lock their blades in place and she kicks him. However, as he doubles over, she can feel something inside her. There is excitement, but there is something more. A cold fire burning inside her, a whisper in the Force, beckoning her deeper into her rage. Her next strike is savage, nearly fatal. The impact sends Anakin skidding back, his boots screeching against the floor. Leia leaps at him, but at the last second, Anakin halts her attack. She can feel the same energy coursing through her, telling her to fight, to finish him. She looks down at Anakin, gritting teeth and trying to halt her attack. But then she looks over at Padme, who watches in horror. Her mother's face. The anger in her begins to fade and Leia falters. But it's enough. A brutal kick slams into her ribs, sending her crashing into the wall. Her lightsaber flies from her grasp, skidding across the floor. She gasps, struggling to rise, and finds herself frozen. Anakin extends his fingers, his hold tight around her through the Force. She chokes, clawing at her throat, legs kicking.
Anakin, stop!
But he doesn't hear her. His rage is a storm, his mind screaming for justice. Justice for the lies, for the betrayal, for the war being waged against him in the shadows. First, he will get the truth. He raises his hands up to her forehead and begins to probe her mind for information. Memories flood his mind, but they're not his. A black suit, a mechanical voice, a blood-red blade, planets burning, people screaming, the cold emptiness of the dark side, and then Leia, bound in chains, staring up at him with hatred and sorrow as he towers over her in a mask of black. They're on a space station of some sort. But then, before he can react, he sees a blinding light from the viewport as a lance of green energy shoots out and hits Alderaan. Anakin stumbles back, his breath ragged, his heart pounding like war drums in his ears. Leia gasps as she drops to the floor, clutching her throat. Anakin's saber flickers, his entire body trembling. He looks at Leia, really looks at her, and in her face, he sees Padme. He sees his daughter. You...
Yes, I am.
I saw... No. That wasn't real. It couldn't be real.
It was real.
Anakin, please. You felt it, didn't you? That vision wasn't a lie.
I would never become that.
Then don't. Make the choice now before it's too late.
Anakin exhales sharply. He looks down at his saber, then slowly he deactivates it. With this information, the group returns to Coruscant and testifies everything they've seen and heard. While the evidence Leia gathered doesn't prove Palpatine is a Sith Lord, it still shows a massive mishandling of Republic resources. The senators all listen to this with growing horror, their eyes widening in shock as they realize how bad the situation is. Palpatine remains silent, but his anger is palpable, and as he speaks, he suddenly snarls and rushes at her, lightsaber raised over his head.
Foolish girl, you shall pay for your insolence.
A blue blade interrupts the strike. Anakin stands between them, his saber locked against Palpatine's. His breath is ragged and his eyes burning dangerously.
You traitor.
He hurls Anakin back with a blast of lightning, but Leia ignites her lightsaber and cuts the attack short by slashing at Palpatine. He leaps back, twisting to avoid this strike. However, his own lightsaber catches hers. The two lock in place, then start the aggressive push back and forth as they spar. Leia moves with precision, leaping from his attack as Anakin steps in and tries to drive his lightsaber at him. Palpatine pivots, twisting unnaturally to evade his strike, and tries to kick him back. Anakin recovers and charges forward. Together, he and Leia weave through the battle, attacking from different angles, forcing Palpatine on the defensive. Their movements seem unusually synchronized. It is as if these two have been fighting together for years. Their movements are in sync and allow them to predict the other's strikes, letting them push Palpatine back. The Chancellor snarls, thrusting his free hand forward. Lightning erupts from his fingertips, catching both of them in a torrent of crackling power. Leia grits her teeth, holding her saber up to absorb the worst of it, but Anakin roars through the pain, pushing forward through the lightning, his saber raised high. Palpatine's eyes widen in disbelief as Anakin swings. A deep slash rends across the Sith Lord's chest. Palpatine stumbles, choking, his lightsaber slipping from his grasp. He clutches at his wound, eyes blazing with hatred. Anakin doesn't hesitate. He drives his lightsaber through Palpatine's chest.
You did it. You changed the future.
With this battle, there is no further question. Palpatine was the Sith Lord and is now dead. A thorough investigation is conducted for him, his allies, and anyone involved in these affairs. The revelation of all the things he's done causes deep reflection within Anakin, wondering where he might have gone wrong and what he might do. This leads him to making a dramatic decision. He will leave the Jedi Order and focus on spending time with Padme. He will continue helping those in need and meditating, trying to find peace his way. As for Leia, she disappears not long after this battle, thanking Anakin for his help and apologizing for the trouble she's caused. The two share their goodbyes and go their separate ways. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.